Chris Carrabba of Dashboard Confessional.
Chris, it's really good to see you. Good to meet you, man.
And it's good to be here. Thank you.
Been a fan for a long time.
Well, I've been doing it a long time. It's suddenly occurring to me now.
You still, I don't know, look 24. It's weird. You haven't aged.
Moisturizer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, so I have a lot of questions, especially about when you first started, because there are a few people to me. Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters, started that by himself. Fight for Fighting was a single guy, then turned into a band. Dashboard Confessional, similar thing, right? You started this as a project by yourself and then made a band. Panic at the Disco, similar. Is that all kind of, am I right on that story?
You're right about the fact that it was started by myself and eventually became a band. But I think in my mind, in the early days, I know it was true. I was in other bands that were proper bands. I was in one particular called Further Seems Forever that was, I thought, the main thing, you know? And it was only, Dashboard was only a side project. But all that to say, the side project was all my friends are on tour in all of their bands. Wouldn't it be fun if whenever they came home, we could all play together? So I'll just call this thing that I'm doing by myself a band name so it doesn't feel like preclusive and it feels inclusive. My friends would come on stage if they're home. And that's not exactly what happened, but it was my original conception for it.
So the band is again. By the way, your record, your Unplugged record, is one of my favorite. I just loved it so much. But you know, there's a lot to it. So how many people are actually in Dashboard Confessional? Like the Dashboard, how many people in the band?
Well, on this tour,
see, it's all different, right?
Yeah.
It's just you are the central figure always.
Well, I guess I've been a constant, and there's been quite a few long-standing members, and there's been people that when they leave to go do other. And onto other musical projects or other life projects, and then they come back. It's kind of an open invitation to come on back. So, like, for example, Scott, our bass player, has been in the band, I think, for this will be 20 years. That's a long time, you know? But sometimes I go out by myself, so Scott's not there.
So when you're starting this project and you're doing it by yourself, are you recording it on, because everybody has a bedroom story or a garage story. Like, what does that actually, what literally does that mean? Are you recording on like some 4-track player? Is that the first Dashboard where you're just sitting there singing acoustically into a crappy closet or microphone?
Yeah, it was a little Tascam 4-track that I bought at a tag sale. That was what I started with. That's not what the record was, but it wasn't much better than that. That first record was recorded in a closet, but you know, it had, you know, foam padding on the wall, so it felt cool. It felt real. But the early demos, I recorded a lot of them in my van. In the back of the van, I had like just a single boombox, like not a multi-track. So I have a tape of me running through what would be the first record, which is called The Swiss Army Romance. I ran through it all just to see what a cool running order would be, and I found that tape, and it's the running order that we used.
Was that about 2000, the year 2000?
Yeah, it was 2000.
So you have this tape, and was your expectation to go out and tour this for Dashboard to exist? Or again, was it just a fun thing that your friends could join? Like, what was kind of the motivation behind creating this music with just yourself?
Well, I guess it was a glorified art project or something, I think.
Did you expect it to ever be heard by people?
No, I expected to, what I'd hoped to do was put out the one recording and maybe get lucky and press 1,000 if I could afford it.
And sell them how?
And sell them to people.
Like from the van?
From the van, yeah. And sell them to people at shows. And I had one tour booked, and it was, I think, this one window where Further Seems Forever wasn't going out, and it looked like just this neat opportunity to go out and travel, like just literally by myself. But I think it was 11 dates, and then I never went home.
When did you start to feel traction, even the lightest bit of traction, where it's, wow, people actually like understanding and relating to this music?
I was surprised to find it pretty early on. And I don't mean that there was many people at the show. There weren't. But if there were 5, all 5 seemed to get it, whatever that thing was. They seemed to get it, and I was really shocked by that, because I thought I was doing something unfamiliar in the setting of like the punk rock scene. It was definitely unfamiliar just to have an acoustic guitar, and I looked like a hardcore kid, but it didn't sound like that kind of stuff. But it didn't sound like something you'd play in a coffee shop either. So I didn't feel like I would have any place where I would find. I was surprised to find like-minded people so quickly.
The term emo is tossed around like crazy. Everything's emo in different ways. Was that term prevalent when you started to create this kind of music, or do you feel like you were one of the first ones to, really coin that in music?
Well, I guess no, I didn't feel like I was one of the first ones. Excuse me, to coin it. Certainly not. I thought it was a misnomer almost, like, and not, that became a 4-letter word later to some people. I'm not sure it ever did to me, but in the early days, it was. I thought it wasn't deferential to the people that I listened to that did that music that was already called emo, because there's been a whole wave of it, a proper wave of like a musical generation of like 2 to 5 years already, and so at first I was like, this is weird that they would call me that, and I couldn't quite figure it out, but realized that the thing was evolving. Whatever that scene was evolving to include, I guess, me and my friends.
Did you feel like that? Because again, your music was at a time when I was, 19, 20, 21 years old. So that music was very important in my overall musical growth from where I was as a kid to now. It was right in that time frame of being in college. Did you find that your music, though, was different to people, even though it was still kind of punk rock, but just because it was on acoustic, that made it feel a bit emo to people? That was a softer feel?
Oh, it's emo. It feels emo. I mean, but I guess because of all those obvious reasons, that it's softer, it's a different delivery, it's pretty passionate, and it's got the, it has the benefit of the kind of passion you'll put into something when you think you're anonymous almost. I couldn't conceive that people would really be listening to this, so I didn't really hold back for fear of how I might feel doing it in front of people.
What did your band think as you started to pop off and you're by yourself that you were in? Was that tricky?
No, actually, well, it became trickier later when we were 2 bands operating at the same time, once they had a different singer. And we navigated that really well, too, to their credit. But in the beginning, they were the guys that were like, you got to go do this. And as a matter of fact, one of the first shows I ever had was unofficially a dashboard show, was because the bass player of my other band, Chad from Further Seems Forever, said, come over here. We're playing a festival. He says, there's a guy kind of doing what you're doing. We should go check it out. But the guy ended up being me. It was a ruse. He just threw me up in the middle of a tent, and there was 30 people there. And
that's funny. And that's supportive even. Like, it's funny and supportive at the same time.
And they're still my best friends that I have. So I'm grateful that they saw where I was going, and it wasn't where they wanted to go. All these songs were presented to them as options for us to play in that band, and they were right. They didn't fit that band. They were close, but they weren't on the money.
Were you reluctant when success and fame started?
I was confused. Reluctant, yeah. I think I was a bit reluctant. I think I remain a bit reluctant. It wasn't exactly the plan, but it was a lot of fun.
Do you get nervous, stage fright at all before shows?
Yeah, I got it now. How am I doing?
Oh, you're doing great. I would never think you were nervous at all. You're kidding now.
No, I'm not. No. I have a weird roiling of energy that I'm trying to contain when I go up there. And when I was newer and younger and greener, I would find it to be alarming. It would like set off almost a panic attack. But now I understand it's just adrenaline and excitement and kind of like the love of it. But for a while, it was hard to let it go.
Was there ever a time that you questioned, should I keep doing this? Not because it wasn't working, but because it really started to work?
Yeah, things got a little hairy there, like where we had to have like security guys and things like that. And I was all thinking, and I thought this was a really inclusive scene I was from, and it remained so. It wasn't people trying to like, rip my clothes off or our clothes off or anything like that. But it's just like a lot of people with a lot of stories that they wanted to, or things they wanted to share with us, personal things, what have you. And I remember like not being able to go, I don't know, to the mall or whatever it was that you would do. Running errands became this weird thing, and the suggestion was made that we take security out. That was the weirdest thing ever. The nicest people I've ever met were these giant security guys, but it was not a good fit for me. I was like, this is bringing more attention. I can put a baseball cap on. How about that?
Now, can you go out and put a hat on and just live a somewhat normal life?
Yeah, I'm not on MTV anymore.
And neither's MTV, actually.
And I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think. There's two.
Yeah. That's. I've been able to find the thing I'd hoped for in the beginning, which was this path to be able to play music for and with people without having to have my life totally disrupted.
What was the first video of yours that was on MTV?
What was it? It was Screaming Infidelities. Yeah.
Was that weird for you to see? And there's a line, and we'll talk about the tour you're doing with Counting Crows, but I'm a massive fan of Counting Crows, and Adam Duritz was in. We talked with him for a while. But there's a line even in Mr. Jones. It's like, when I look at the television, I want to see me staring right back at me. That line is him wanting to see him on TV.
Yeah.
Is that line you at all?
No, it's not at all. It's not at all. God, I wish it was. I might have had a different experience having seen it, but I remember being like, I was excited to tell like my friends, but it was not a thing I walked in with. I got used to it really quick though. Like I'd get excited and I kind of like think about new video ideas. I got excited about that whole corner of what music could be, and it became really fun.
Do you think you would be happier, or would have been then happier, if you only had mild success where you could support yourself, create your art, but not, because there was a point when you just became so popular, it became pop. Your music didn't change, but you became so popular, it became pop. Was that the hardest time for you? Or was it awesome?
It was awesome. It was so great. I didn't really have to change. I did, we grew and our music did evolve, but I wasn't being made to change. And more people were gravitating towards it. It was beautiful. I was maybe a little tired, like physically tired. It's a big world to get to, and I think there was a point where we were really doing, I don't know how many shows it was, but it was like 300 days out on the road. And that was a long stretch. That was a good couple or 3 years that we did that kind of schedule. That was the only part that was really tough to grapple with.
Was it weirder to be home than on the road?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe always will be, and maybe always was. So that's something I think was probably good for me in my life.
Where did you grow up?
Well, I kind of grew up in Connecticut and then Florida, and found music and all that once I moved to Florida.
And what about Florida? Like, were you exposed to a scene there that opened it up for you, or were you already searching for it? And I don't know, it's warmer, so you're out. I don't know. Why Florida?
Well, I think there was a scene. There was a music scene. Of course, there was one in Connecticut where I lived. I just didn't know about it. I was a little bit too young. Didn't know an older kid on the block that might tell me there was a Youth of Today show or something. But when I got down to Florida, a couple things happened. I was really into skateboarding. And this is super popularity of skateboarding. You still get beat up for looking like you do it. But I found other people like that were into it, and I hadn't really found that many people like that where I'd grown up in Connecticut. But it also rains, like it's torrential rain in the afternoons there a certain time of the year. So we would just like sit in a car or at the skate shop with music playing, and I'd pick everybody's brains about it. And then they said, they're playing here, whoever it was. We started going to shows, and so it was sort of that just typical youth culture thing there. A friend with a driver's license, that kind of thing. Well, I guess I had my driver's license, I just didn't have a car. So a friend with a car, and the kind of meshing of those two worlds, the surf and skate world with the music world, they're really entwined. And that's how I found the music scene, really. My
assumption is, could be an unfair assumption, that you may have been a shy kid. If you were a shy kid, how in the world did you become a frontman?
Wow.
Like, what was that
It was not my favorite thing. It was, I should say, it was not an endeavor I went into looking for how to be a frontman. I just wanted to play with people. So I guess kicking and screaming is how I got dragged into being a frontman, to be quite honest with you. I was really, really interested in writing songs. It's just an okay guitar player, just an okay singer. I was pretty good at arranging music. So I was getting in these bands and felt like I was integral in the band, but I was almost always just playing guitar. That's what I really wanted to do. But I wasn't like a ripper or anything like that. So I thought with contributing as a songwriter, I had a place.
Then who goes, okay, Chris, we need you to sing. We've heard you sing like background vocals. Or
That's
just
how
sing.
It happens.
Yeah.
Some that part's. Could somebody do a harmony there? And I just do it, and it was there, And then you come in with your songs and you're singing them. I was singing the songs I was writing to the singer, to the rest of the band, and finally somebody got annoyed with the time it took to make somebody else do it. Just you do it. Fine. And after a while of that, you become a singer in the band, not the singer. This band that I was in, Vacant Andy's, it's where I learned where I really cut my teeth on all things musical, certainly on all things band, like how to be in a band. But there was at one point 3 singers, and then there was, for the length of the band, there was 2 singers. So there was no front man. We were trading off songs, and we were always singing on each other's songs, excuse me. It was later when I got into Further, and those guitar players are like bananas. And as writers, they were bananas. And I was kind of like, why do they want me in this band? And it was simply because they liked my voice, which was weird because it was never the thing I expected anybody to. I thought it was just something that I got to do, not that something anybody would want me to do necessarily. So that's kind of how it came to pass that I got comfortable being at the center of things.
You didn't demand, like I always demanded attention. Like I demand attention. I'm a type A personality. I want to be in the front. That you were the opposite.
I was the opposite I think the opposite thing might have been a little bit of like a learned response, right? Because I was a shorter kid. I have this weird birthmark where my hair grows 2 colors. So it's a blonde right in the middle, and I was kid of the 80s, so like Gremlins is out. So I'm getting like called Stripe and all this stuff and beat up for it or whatever, picked on for it. And I realized like, okay, I better figure out how to blend. And maybe that was, I learned that lesson too deeply. But once I realized I could be more who I wanted to be out in the middle of that stage, I would save it all for then and really just be the guy and have it be the key that turns you into the whatever it is, the real you. I've heard it said, oh, who are you up there? It's like, I don't even know you or whatever. It's like, no, that's kind of like, I feel like that's me up there.
So you start this project in 2000. Would you say that Vindicated is the song that people would know general public? You think Vindicated is your biggest song?
It's got to be, right?
I would think so, but I'm a little too close to it.
If only because it's in a Marvel movie.
Yes.
It's got to be the most. I don't know whether, like, I never remember like charts and things like that and what songs were successful by certain metrics, but just that the most people had to have heard it in the world from that.
Man, such
Spider-Man,
a jam. There are certain songs that you hear, and again, that was a really big. It's like when you're like a young adult and music matters so much to you. Like I can remember where I was like when I would hear that song, and I remember being in the movie. That was the Kirsten Dunst version, right? On Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Did you meet them?
I did, but don't they usually call the Tobey Maguire version? But yes, I back you on that one. Yeah.
You know what? I guess I think it was the Kirsten Dunst version. That's funny. That. Did you write that song for the movie? Because we talked with Adam Duritz from Counting Crows about the song that went into Shrek, and he wrote that for the movie.
Yeah.
Did you write that for the movie?
Not exactly.
Not exactly.
Actually, Adam and I were just talking about that, about Accidentally in Love the other day, and it got me thinking. I submitted a different song to the production when they asked me about being a part of the soundtrack, and it was not meant to be the single. It wasn't meant to be in the movie, and I really liked the song. It still hasn't come out. But the cool thing was they let me see the movie while it was sort of still like, it wasn't quite dailies, but it was like the graphics weren't rendered yet. It would be suddenly just be like in animation in the middle of a holding place for like something to come later. It was really a neat way to see the movie. And the story of it was really in my mind as I left there. They're just like sort of like the conflict of being pulled in different directions, wanting things you can't quite allow yourself to have or aren't allowed to have. And I got to, our last day of that run was in Hawaii, and we were all going to go surfing, and I picked up the guitar, and it just like kind of spilled out. And I was like, it's funny, where did that song come from? And I was like, oh, well, there's this line, dangles on a string, maybe it's from Spider-Man. So just that bit of it made me call home and just be like, would you want to hear this other song? I know there's no time. And so just like that, it was written. Maybe an hour or two later, I called. I played it for Leah Volek over the phone. She was the head of Sony Music for pictures. And she was like, give me a minute. Get me a tape of that. Send her a tape. She's like, could you? Actually, I think she's like, could you demo that today? This is like home studio kind of things like that. And we were able to do it at the club that we were playing that night. And they got that tape home, and somehow they were like, could you fly home tomorrow and record this? If so, it'll be in the movie, it'll be the single.
Wow.
Like, okay, well, yes, we'll be there.
How big was MySpace in your career?
It was so big. Oh my God, it was so big. It was the biggest, possibly the biggest thing in my career, except for Napster. Those were probably two biggest factors in my career.
Will you explain, because I was big on MySpace, will you explain what MySpace is to some of our younger listeners?
Well, it, it was like a do-it-yourself Facebook that was run by renegades, I guess. It was a social network. It's the first one I remember that had the framework of what would really come in social networks. Like, really was very much like Facebook in a lot of ways. But the way it wasn't was it seemed to be music and art related really heavily, and you could skin your own page, right? And you could so everybody's user interface sort of looked like their thing. You know who you were going to see, and there was. I think the reason it got so big was that people were really hungry to just communicate about the things they felt passionate about, and no adults were really looking.
And was it they were using your music as their song? Because you had a song. You put a song up as your song.
Yeah.
So people came to your page. It was like, this is the kind of music I like. You're forced to listen to it.
Yep.
So is that what happened with your music? People just started sharing it, but in that way?
Yeah. Like if we're gonna be friends, you got to know this about me. It's a big thing, big way to open the door, an easy way to open the door. Great shorthand, and we really benefited from timing on that one. For so many people, we were writing I was writing, I guess, something that felt to them like a way to explain themselves, and MySpace was the way where they could do that.
And then MySpace got all weird, and you get viruses, and then it just went away.
Yeah,
it was really Napster too, but Napster kind of needed to go away because when I was a kid, I would go, I can't believe these artists. They want us to pay for this music. I was so offended.
So mad, right?
Yeah, I was like, I can't. I hate Metallica. I hate all. They were obviously right, because you are creating an art and you deserve to, be able to live your life based on the art that people are consuming. But at the time as a kid, I was so mad. I was like, I deserve to have this free. And I download every song. I would just hit the letter D, for example. I download every artist started with D, including Dashboard Confessional, all of it. So for you guys, again, music being shared by like-minded people, I got to imagine that was massive for you guys for that brief period. Napster was just killing it.
Look, I will have an unpopular opinion. I loved Napster. It made my career. Sure, it like took away the livelihood I might have had, but wouldn't have. So I can only speak to how it affected me. And I had a record made, but no distribution. And later when I got on like a small label, they didn't really have a distribution. And then when we were popping off, the label that we were on next was having like a war with their distribution. And that whole time I could still get my music into people's hands. And I remember being like, well, we can't get, like I literally couldn't get my records from the distribution place when we were at that stage where
like
we should have been able to, could not
physically
get records. So I'd just be like, look, just buy it later if you want to, but maybe get it now so we can sing along together. So, but where I do think that it did us a service, societally, I guess, CDs were too expensive. They were artificially priced in such a way that was harmful to the consumer, I think. And so Napster, if nothing else, was sort of the great equalizer.
Now
but it took away a lot of people's paycheck. Right?
I'm mad again. No, we want it free again.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't have it free. You should have it reasonably priced.
When I was looking at your catalog of songs, Stolen was such a massive song for you as well. When you hit this stage of your career, was when Stolen, I mean, you're a monster by the time Stolen hits, as far as people coming to your shows. I mean, I don't know that there was ever, for me, a time to see Dashboard and just see it so large and everywhere you went. Was this, I don't know, when I say Stolen in that song, where does that put you in your mind about that point?
Oh, I can tell. I got a chill even with how quickly it took me back to think about it. I lived in basically a beach town in a tourist town. And so like when the end of the season would come, you'd kind of get your city back, you'd kind of get your town back, but also like everything you loved about the exciting now of it all when season was happening and you're a young person and there's, action, activity, girls, new friends, all kinds of things that felt familiar to me as I was transitioning now into like another place professionally, where it's like, okay, I wish I could go back there, but everything ends. And I had this kind of, I was conflating the two things, like the beautiful temporary nature of it all, and how it's all fleeting, it's all transitional, and like, it was kind of a nod to like, I think I need to acknowledge that I love it both ways. I love it when everything's happening, and then I love it when it's really peaceful. And I always miss the other thing. Whichever place I'm in, I miss the other place. So
grass is greener.
It's more like, remember that it really isn't greener. It's special in both places.
So it's dead on both. The grass is deader.
Grass is dead everywhere you go.
The grass is dead everywhere you go.
There's no hope.
Do you write melody first, or are you a lyrics guy?
I think it's concurrent most of the time. I think I do the sort of a babble as I'm singing and catch a word here and there, and then I'll spend some time in lyrics and then sing melody, lyrics. It's sort of hand in glove.
How fast did that song come out of you?
You know, I always think about this. You know, those songs that you wrench on and you really just really are nitty gritty on the minutia of it all that take weeks and months or whatever. By rights, those are the ones that should really connect with people, but it's the ones that take, you know, they come in a flash. They connect with people, and this was one of the latter.
Do you get a cold and you're not able to sing as high?
Yeah. Well,
because that would be hard. Because even if I'm doing comedy, doing stand-up, and you know, we do funny music, and I have a song where I'm supposed to sing high, I can't get there.
Yeah, you might remember that I had to cancel our original date for our talk here. That's because I got a cold and I couldn't sing that high.
Oh. Do you ever wonder why did I write this song so hard to sing?
I do, really often.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. But then you try to sing it lower, and it doesn't feel cool. It feels less cool.
Not the same message.
It feels like, I'm a believer in urgency, and sometimes you just got to tear that out of yourself.
Your band, Dashboard Confessional, Counting Crows, doing a whole lot of shows together, or 50 shows. How'd you guys come together to, get on this tour?
Oh, we've been talking about this tour for a really long time. So Adam and I have been close friends for, it's hard to believe, but like maybe it could be like 15 years or more, maybe 20, I don't know. He's kind of been my favorite thing that's happened about my career, like people I've met, experiences I've had, they're sort of always connected right to him. And he's my lyrical hero, my musical hero too. So it's a beautiful kind of thing that is constantly surprising to me that like, I still listen to records like he's not that guy. Like he's not the guy I'm going to pal around with later. It's a whole different guy when I listen to music. So how did it come together? We've been talking about it, trying to get schedules, trying to get albums to line up. And we're here.
And it did. It worked.
And it did. Yeah.
I feel like people need to be quiet at these shows.
Well,
between Dashboard and Counting Crows, people just need to shut up and enjoy the show. Would you agree?
Well, I'm going to sing along to them, so no.
See,
Sorry.
people are talking. I don't care if they sing along, but if they're talking.
Yeah, enough talking.
Yeah, if you're playing, because I'm, again, massive Counting Crows fan too. Like, look, when he sits down at the piano.
Oh, yeah, hush.
Yeah, shut up.
Yeah.
Everybody, shh.
Yeah, this is it. It's happening.
Yes, right now. Chris, I really appreciate you coming by, man. We talked about the tour a little earlier, but I'm going to say it again. The Counting Crows and Dashboard Confessional, the Banshee Season Tour, you can get tickets at dashboardconfessional.com. It's over 50 dates, and it's all the hits. You play all the hits?
Yeah, man. I know
Just
why we're there.
Sure. Sometimes people are like, I don't. And you're going to hear all
deep cuts.
You're going to hear all the hits. Chris, big fan. Thank you so much for coming by. We really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everybody.
There he is. Chris, Dashboard Confessional.